I picked up this hatchet for 13 bucks at Harbor Freight, and honestly for the price, it's pretty good, but I want to see if I can improve the grip a little bit because it's not very comfortable. The handle on my Cold Steel Trail Boss is perfect, so I'm going to try and make it the same as this. I'm going to make the grip more comfortable, put linseed across the whole handle, and get it sharpened up. So here's the hatchet before I did anything. The biggest problem is just that the hatchet is too fat for my hands. I'm using the Cold Steel Trail Boss as a template for this hatchet, so I traced the shape of it onto the hatchet and got to work removing the extra material with my 2-in-1 rasp and file. I used a rasp to remove all the extra material, but in hindsight I definitely should have used a saw to cut out the bigger pieces of wood and save me time. All in all, it probably took me about 15 minutes to remove all the extra material down to the lines I had drawn. Thankfully, I did use the jigsaw to cut off the large piece of wood on the knob of the handle, and that saved me quite a bit of time. I definitely recommend using a saw where you can. And since there was plenty of sawdust, I definitely had a garbage can underneath to catch most of it. Once I had removed the material down to the line I had drawn, I spent the next couple minutes rounding the edges and working on getting the shape I wanted. Next, I used the file to start smoothing everything out. Once I was happy with the shape, I started sanding it down. I sanded the whole handle because I wanted to get the lacquer off as well, because I want to coat it with boiled linseed oil, because I think that's the best. I ended up using a couple different grits and I sanded it until it was smooth. I wiped it off with a damp rag to get all the sawdust off it, and once it was dry, it was time to apply the boiled linseed oil. I just use my hand to apply it because I find that's the easiest, but always make sure to use a rubber glove because boiled linseed oil has a drying agent in it that's not good for your skin. It's okay once it's dry, but you shouldn't touch it while it's wet. I ended up putting a couple coats on, and I'll keep putting more on as time goes by. I gave the boiled linseed oil plenty of time to dry, wiped off the excess, and it was time for the next step. Now all I gotta do is sharpen this edge, and this axe will be exactly what I want it to be. I used my metal file to clean up the edges and sharpen both sides of the axe head. I mostly just kept the angle that was on it, but I did round the top edge a little bit. To put the final touches on sharpening it, I used the sharpening stone at 400 grit and then 1000 grit on both sides. And here's the final product. I'm super happy with how it turned out, and the handle is much, much better. If you have any questions about anything I did, make sure to ask and I'd be happy to help. Let me know how you think it turned out, and I'll see you in the next one.